Today, we're diving into one of the most powerful books I think I've ever read. We're not just looking at it as a story of survival, but really as a guide, a roadmap to understanding what keeps us going, even when things feel impossible. I want you to just pause and really think about this question for a second. Seriously. When all the things on the outside that we think define us are just gone, what's left at the very center of who you are? What is the one thing that can't be taken away? Because we're about to explore a profound truth about the human spirit, a truth discovered in the absolute worst of conditions. But it's a lesson that holds so much wisdom for every single one of us, right here, right now. So our guide for this journey is Dr. Viktor Frankl. And it is so important to understand that he wasn't just a prisoner in a concentration camp. He was a psychiatrist. And even in the middle of all that horror, he never stopped being an observer of the human soul. You see, before the war, Dr. Frankl had a great life. He was a highly respected psychiatrist in Vienna. And then he was arrested and thrown into the Nazi concentration camps, including Auschwitz. He lost everyone, his wife, his parents, his brother. And yet, surrounded by just unimaginable cruelty, he did something incredible. He paid attention. He watched. He learned. And what he noticed was this really startling pattern. It wasn't the biggest, toughest, most physically strong people who survived. It was the people who had a purpose, a reason to live. They had a goal in the future, something that anchored them to life, even in the middle of a nightmare. This idea is summed up in this incredibly powerful quote, which really became the cornerstone of Frankl's work. He who has a why to live for can bear almost any how. Think about that. If your purpose, your why, is strong enough, you can endure almost anything. So for Frankl, this wasn't just some observation he made. It became the actual foundation for a whole new approach to psychotherapy, and he called it logotherapy. The name itself really says it all. Logos is the Greek word for meaning. So logotherapy is built on this one core idea, that the main driver for us as human beings isn't pleasure or power. It's the search for meaning. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning. That's our deepest need. So what makes this so different from other therapies? Well, think about Freudian psychoanalysis, which often spends a lot of time looking backward, digging into your past to find the source of your problems. Logotherapy does the opposite. It looks forward. It asks, what's the meaning you're trying to fulfill? What's the purpose that's going to pull you forward? Now, Frankl also identified this problem that feels so modern, doesn't it? He called it the existential vacuum. It's that feeling of emptiness, of meaninglessness that can creep in even when we have everything we're supposed to want. Comfort, success, all the stuff. It's that nagging feeling that something is missing. And that something is a sense of purpose. Okay, so if meaning is so crucial, where do we find it? This is the best part. Frankl didn't just leave it as some big, abstract idea. He gave us a practical, actionable framework. He laid out 3 clear paths. So here they are, the 3 main paths to a meaningful life. First, through creation. That's by doing something, creating something, or accomplishing a task. Second is through experience, by connecting with another person through love or by appreciating beauty in the world. And the third, and maybe the most profound, is through the attitude we choose to take towards suffering that we can't avoid. Let's break each one down. Path number 1 is all about what you give to the world, your contribution. For Frankl himself, a huge driver in the camps was the dream of one day rewriting the book manuscript he had lost. For you, it might be your work, or building a family, or dedicating yourself to a cause that's bigger than you are. It's about your mission. The second path is about what you receive from the world. Frankl wrote about how he would survive these brutal forced marches by just vividly imagining his wife's face, having entire conversations with her in his mind. Meaning can be found in a moment of love, or in just stopping to witness something truly beautiful. He said even seeing a sunset could feel like a moment of grace in the camp. But what if you can't create anything? And what if there's no beauty to be found? This brings us to the third path. Frankl said that even when everything else is gone, one thing always remains: your power to choose how you respond to your suffering. And in that choice, that's where you find your ultimate freedom. This idea is so huge, it really deserves its own moment. Because this isn't just some clever way to cope. Frankl believed this was the highest expression of what it means to be human. Let's just let that sink in. Everything can be taken from a man but one thing. The last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way. They could take everything he owned, his work, his family, even his name, but they could never take away his power to decide, internally, how he would face it. He saw men in the camps who chose to be kind, who gave away their very last piece of bread to comfort someone else. They chose their own way. And making that choice leads to what Frankl called tragic optimism. Now, this isn't some naive, everything is wonderful kind of optimism. No way. This is a tough, resilient optimism that looks tragedy right in the eye. It's the ability to say yes to life in spite of everything, and by doing that, you actually turn suffering into a human achievement. So here's the ultimate lesson, the thing to hold on to. You and I, we don't get to choose our circumstances. We just don't. But we always get to choose our response. And in that tiny space between what happens to us and how we respond, that's where our power is. That's where our growth and our freedom live. So I want to leave you with the one question that really, truly matters. Thinking about those three paths, what you can create, what you can experience, and the attitude you can choose, I want you to ask yourself, what is your why? What gives your life meaning?